So allegedly, the South African refugees said that America is too ghetto. They're going back home. Trump spent all them taxpayer dollars to bring them folks over here because he wanted to bring the European numbers up, because we found out not too long ago that their population is declining because they
of growth or whatever he was babbling about. But yeah, anyway, white South Africans were like the only group that Donald Trump wanted to allow to legally come to the United States. And apparently they're all leaving.
That article goes on to claim that they didn't want to live in places where people are getting shot in broad daylight and where things cost 10 times more than they should. See, for the people in the US,
so last year, Donald Trump was like, white South Africans are facing genocide in South Africa, so they can come to the United States and they are going to receive them. Yes, some white South Africans moved from South Africa to the US thinking they are going to get a better life. This year, many of them have decided to move back to South Africa, saying America is not what they thought it is. Americans are reacting, and I have a couple of videos to show you. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Let's go into the video, watch, come back and talk.
Do you guys remember in May of last year when Donald Trump announced that he was going to be bringing in white South Africans as refugees? Because he loudly claimed in front of South Africa's president and his white cabinet members that white people in South Africa were being genocided. In case you don't remember, here is a short clip of somebody in Trump's administration welcoming the South Africans, the white South Africans, and saying that they have good seeds which will grow in the United States.
Over the years, and I am sure that you will be successful. It's, as you know, a lot of you, I think, are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom. And we are excited to welcome you here to our country, where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will bloom and we will benefit alongside you. So thank you very much for coming.
It's really unnerving to hear MAGA men talk about the seeds of growth or whatever he was babbling about. But yeah, anyway, white South Africans were like the only group that Donald Trump wanted to allow to legally come to the United States. And apparently they're all leaving. Thousands of white South Africans repatriate as U.S. safety fears grow. Thousands of white South Africans are returning home after years abroad, reversing a long-standing trend of immigration. Many are reclaiming citizenship through a government portal launched after the repeal of a 1995 law that had stripped citizenship from some expatriates. Part of the migration story is shaped by the United States. The Trump administration launched a program offering refuge to white South Africans, particularly Afrikaners, citing concerns over crime and alleged persecution, claims that South African authorities deny. While some took advantage of the U.S. program, growing worries about mass shootings, immigration enforcement, and political instability in the U.S. have prompted many to reconsider and return home. Improvements in infrastructure, like the near end of daily power outages and enhanced private security, have boosted confidence among those moving back. Analysts say the trend reflects both practical and economic considerations. Remote work has made it easier for professionals to live in South Africa while keeping jobs abroad. Many see South Africa as offering a safer, more affordable, and more stable environment than some countries they have lived in, including the United States. So obviously Donald Trump is not to blame for mass shootings or the healthcare issues of the United States. He's not solely to blame. But the U.S. has some serious systemic issues, and anybody coming here as a refugee from a relatively safe country like South Africa will quickly realize, like, oh, I've made a terrible mistake. Reuters did a whole article on this too, and here's a clip from Reuters talking about people that have lived in the U.S. for decades and who decided, yeah, screw this, I'm moving back to South Africa.
Naomi Sapphire was born in South Africa and lived for 2 decades in the United States. She came back home for a holiday and realized how much she missed this place.
You cannot dictate what makes your heart happy. So you leave and then you come back because ultimately this is home.
Last year, Sapphire left North Carolina for a seaside town in South Africa's Western Cape. Now, she says her 3 children spend more time outdoors, health insurance is affordable, and she prefers the schools. She's among thousands of white South Africans coming back from abroad, despite U.S. President Donald Trump's statements that South Africa's white minority is being persecuted by the country's black majority government.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa.
The Trump administration is ramping up its new refugee program for white South Africans, focusing on Afrikaners, the descendants of Dutch settlers, such as Sapphire and her family. About 3,500 South Africans have entered the United States as refugees since the program started in May 2025. Pretoria says there is no evidence of discrimination or persecution against whites. Many white South Africans and Afrikaners have welcomed Trump's support, but insisted they nevertheless want to remain in their country. And others who left decades ago are now returning. Anton van Heerden is an employment agent who has been trying to help returnees keep their jobs abroad by shifting to remote work. He said inquiries from white South Africans seeking to return had jumped 70% in the past 6 months.
We have also asked these people why they're coming back, and we got a lot of different reasons. The obvious ones would be whether family, friends, the vibe in South Africa, but also things like costs of living and living standards are considered to be very high in South Africa.
For Naomi and her husband, Danny, they're happy with their choice.
Some of the metrics that we use to decide like whether or not this is our permanent place is education, cost of living, how much we're enjoying the place. And so far, that's ticking all the boxes.
Yeah, the only immigrants that Trump wants are white people from countries that have universal health care and better schools, and they're relatively safer than the United States. But none of those people want to be here for obvious reasons. It's just another hilarious saga in Trump's failures. Like, he genuinely thought that South Africans were going to be, like, clamoring over each other to get to the United States. Hilarious and stupid.
White South Africans that were pretty much the only people Donald Trump has let into the country since his administration took over are returning home. They came to the United States because they said they were being persecuted in their home country, and now they're going back because they say nobody is meant to live the way you have to live in the United States. It's too expensive and it's too violent. They say, look, we're leaving the U.S. to return home because I don't want to live in a place like this. That article goes on to claim that they didn't want to live in places where people are getting shot in broad daylight and where things cost 10 times more than they should. See, for the people in the U.S., these things are normal, but for the rest of the world, it's not. We are not a safe country. We are not the greatest country in the world, and we're not a country that actually takes care of its citizens. So these white South Africans that came here because they were persecuted, that Donald Trump welcomed to fanfare, are now going home because things were better there than they are in the United States.
Now, you know it's bad when the white supremacists are leaving your country and saying they'd rather go back to the white genocide as opposed to staying here. Baby, listen. These Afrikaners, or whatever the hell they call themselves, I guess they thought they were going to come over here and flourish and basically live off of government assistance. Because at the end of the day, that's all they wanted, right? They wanted government assistance. The very thing that they complain about other people, they wanted. That's what they came over here to get. And when they're not getting it, just like Americans ain't getting it, suddenly they want to go back home. Suddenly South Africa doesn't sound so bad. And they sent them to Idaho, of all places. Like, it should be really, cheap to live there. They said they can't survive on $2,000 a month. Not over here. And so they are scrambling to go back to South Africa. South Africa had to basically write a program for these people to come back because they don't want to be here. See, they don't realize Americans are battle tested. They don't realize that this is a penal colony. And in order to survive here, you can't be, you got to be more than just mediocre. You got to be more than just mediocre. And they found out that they were mediocre. So they want to go back home to be mediocre. Goodbye.
Guys, I just want to talk about the South African refugees in America. But I just want to say, okay, when I'm talking about them, I'm not prejudiced, okay? I'm not like racist against the refugees. But these people are different to us, okay? And I do have some thoughts, all right? But I'm not like prejudiced, okay? They're just a different breed, okay? And it's not a race thing, okay? It's a culture thing. So these oaks, these refugees, okay, in America, and now they're complaining, okay? They're complaining that the government isn't doing enough for them. They're complaining that they're only getting $2,000 a month, okay? That is more than 30,000 Rand a month, okay? In South Africa, the unemployment grant is 370 Rand a month, but 32K is not enough for these guys. And they say that they're not happy with the free accommodation that they've been given. They're saying that horror upon horrors, there's mold, okay, in the houses, okay? But God forbid they clean their own houses. Instead, they choose to live like savages in the dirt. And I'm sorry, I'm not, like, if you live in dirt and you don't clean, you are savage. And that's not racist of me to say. My uncle dated a refugee, so, you know, I can't be prejudiced against him. These oaks are complaining that the resettlement agencies haven't done enough to help them look for jobs. My boy, what must the oak do? Read through the classifieds for you and send in a CV on your behalf. I'm sorry, but these oaks, they lack initiative. The unemployment rate in America is 4.3%, okay? Half of the labor force just got thrown out the country by ICE, okay? If you're not working, it's because you're lazy. And I'm sorry, I've got refugee friends, okay? But they are lazy. And they are professional victims, okay? Because it's always somebody else's fault. It's always the government's fault. In South Africa, they were, I'm persecuted by the government. Now in America, the government's not giving them enough money. You know what it is? It's always this. Please. You know what it is? It's entitled. They're entitled. I'm afraid to say, they just don't want to work. Okay, and I don't care if you're white, black, purple, green, or yellow. Okay, I treat you all the same. But if somebody is too lazy to work and expects the government to do everything for them, then yeah, I'm going to tune them straight. So yeah, bro, I'm not being prejudiced. I'm just telling the facts. And that's just what I think.
Welcome back. The internet is going crazy. And South Africa, pay attention, because you are now the topic of this craziness. So basically what is happening now, why people are going a little bit crazy, is because that a large amount of these white refugees from South Africa that have come over to America are now going back to South Africa because they say life in America is not what they thought it would be. Now, before I get into this, before people say, hey, he's in America, he doesn't know what's going in South Africa, or vice versa, whatever the case might be. I grew up in South Africa, okay? I was there when Nelson Mandela said, so help me God. So I know what I'm talking about in the sense of I know life in South Africa. I've been in America since 2023, all right? So I know what's going on in South Africa, what has been going on in South Africa. I also know what's going on in America. So I have a advantage of having both sides of the story. Firstly, when I came to America in 2023, I got an entry-level job, which was loading and unloading packages in a very big delivery company. That's what was available. That's what I took. And in less than 2 years, I went from, what they call it, a package handler. I went from package handler to a package handler trainer. Now, a package handler trainer basically does the same thing as a package handler, but is paid more, and also is put in charge of letting the other package handlers know how to do their job in the safest way possible, following company policy, etc., etc., etc. Now, just over 2 years later, I am now an operations administrator, which is a desk job. It's a full-time paying job. I'm very happy with my progress, my success so far in America. The first refugees in Donald Trump's wonderful program to get the refugees from South Africa out of harm's way into America came in May 12th, 2025. That's 10 months ago. That's 10 months ago. How can you expect to advance in your job? How can you expect to start to culturally adapt to the changes? Because there are some vast changes culture-wise. How can you expect to make those vast changes and all this progress within 10 months? This is throwing in the towel. America is not easy. America, as one actor in a very famous movie said, America is advanced citizenship. You have to want it bad because it's going to put up a fight, right? So there is no way that these South African refugees had sufficient time to adapt to America. So now you have South African podcasters and South African influencers. Yeah, they're coming back. Oh, they didn't make it. America's not this or America's not that. Listen, when I first came to America, you know what I had? I had a broken duffel bag with a few clothes in. The duffel bag couldn't even close properly at Cape Town International Airport. I had to staple it closed. I came to America basically with nothing, just my smile, a baseball cap, a couple clothes, and stunk schooner. If you want to make it not only in America, but in any country, coming from another country, you're going to have to work hard. The next mistake these refugees from South Africa made was they thought that the American government is just going to give them everything that they want. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in any country. You have to work hard. So I'm going to leave it at that, just to lay the foundation of future video clips that are coming up. Number one, 10 months is not sufficient time to adapt to any country coming from overseas. 10 months is not enough time. Secondly, do not rely on the government. Thirdly, do your research about your place and connect with people on the other side. Those people in South Africa, I'm sure a majority of them knew nobody here, didn't connect with nobody here. And final point, there was some of them that were saying, oh, America is full of crime and drive-by shootings and what? Well, that's going to happen. That's what's going to happen when you are placed in some of the most craziest crime-ridden cities. The city that I live in, Eugene, Oregon, is one of the safest places that you can get, full of wonderful beauty. So I'm very sorry that these South African refugees, they didn't want to or couldn't, right? But everybody knows 10 months is not sufficient time to adapt the way you want to adapt. If you want to make it in America, number one, don't rely on the government to give you the keys to the city. Number two, you have to be a certain type of person that is hungry for change and is hungry to make it. I am still making it. I am a testament to what hard work and dedication and good support can bring you. More to come. Open the comment section.
It's not the refugees that want to come back, thankfully, because those were unskilled people. They also don't have much to offer, and we also know that a lot of them are blatantly dishonest. So it's better that they stay in the United States. It's actually expats. So expats are people that have been in the United States for ages and they're feeling unsafe. There's also the cost of living in the United States. But they didn't leave here on the refugee program. So let's hope there is never a time that Trump's refugees want to come back. They must stay where they are.
We are not a safe country. We are not the greatest country in the world. And we're not a country that actually takes care of its citizens. So these white South Africans that came here because they were persecuted, that Donald Trump welcomed to fanfare, are now going home because things were better there than they are in the United States.
Well. It seems like a lot of expats, South Africans, majority of them being white, are returning to South Africa because they fear for their lives in the US. Mr. Andrew Veitch says he left SA because he was held at gunpoint in his car and he felt unsafe. Now he says he fears for his life because there's greater threats in the United States, citing mass shootings in public places as well as violence by US immigration officers. He is one of 12,000 people that have checked their citizen status online since November last year. 12,000 people are showing interest. Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber, says 1,000 have reclaimed their citizenship, a number expected to grow significantly as this new program that has revoked the 1995 law that says if you go and live abroad, your citizenship is revoked. That has been changed so people can apply again for citizenship. I for a fact know that the DA is going to use this as a strategy to get more white people to return to South Africa to increase their voting power.
This is like Christmas.
Naomi Sapphire was born in South Africa and lived for 2 decades in the United States. She came back home for a holiday and realized how much she missed this place.
You cannot dictate what makes your heart happy. So you leave and then you come back because ultimately this is home.
Last year, Sapphire left North Carolina for a seaside town in South Africa's Western Cape. Now, she says her 3 children spend more time outdoors, health insurance is affordable, and she prefers the schools. She's among thousands of white South Africans coming back from abroad, despite U.S. President Donald Trump's statements that South Africa's white minority is being persecuted by the country's black majority government.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa.
The Trump administration is ramping up its new refugee program for white South Africans, focusing on Afrikaners, the descendants of Dutch settlers, such as Sapphire and her family. About 3,500 South Africans have entered the United States as refugees since the program started in May 2025. Pretoria says there is no evidence of discrimination or persecution against whites. Many white South Africans and Afrikaners have welcomed Trump's support, but insisted they nevertheless want to remain in their country. And others who left decades ago are now returning. Anton van Heerden is an employment agent who has been trying to help returnees keep their jobs abroad by shifting to remote work. He said inquiries from white South Africans seeking to return had jumped 70% in the past 6 months.
We have also asked these people why they're coming back, and we got a lot of different reasons. The obvious ones would be whether family, friends, the vibe in South Africa, but also things like costs of living and living standards are considered to be very high in South Africa.
For Naomi and her husband, Danny, they're happy with their choice.
Some of the metrics that we use to decide like whether or not this is our permanent place is education, cost of living, how much we're enjoying the place. And so far, that's ticking all the boxes.
So allegedly, the South African refugees said that America is too ghetto. They're going back home. Trump spent all them taxpayer dollars to bring them folks over here because he wanted to bring the European numbers up, because we found out not too long ago that their population is declining because they was the main ones going to the AB clinic getting rid of them babies that they uncles and daddies was putting in them, right? So they brought over these European people from South Africa. These European people said, we don't like it here. we want to go home. We was better off where we was at. Now they tried to convince us that them people was over there being bullied, being told what to do. Them people couldn't live life right. They was being mistreated and all that. Just for them to come over here and not like the way they're treated. That is crazy. But the worst part about it all is that they spent taxpayer dollars to get these people over here, and now they going back home. I hope they going back home on their dime. I hope they going back home on. I hope y'all going. Can somebody figure that? Is they going back home on their dime or our dime? Because I didn't invite them here in the first place. I never said I wanted them here. Okay, so I better not be paying for them to go back home. We didn't already pay for them to get here, and they don't like it. Shit.
The white South African refugees Trump granted asylum to are returning back to South Africa because they are struggling financially here in the U.S. I'm Major League, and this is news you need to know.
The administration is prioritizing white South Africans for admission, a group it says faces persecution at home, something the South African government disputes. Well, now an investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are failures in U.S. government systems.
Reuters is reporting that dozens of white South Africans who were recently granted asylum in the United States are now voluntarily returning to their home country. Although the Trump administration framed their arrival as a necessary rescue from racial persecution, these families are finding the American economy nearly impossible to navigate. Many of those returning cite the high cost of housing, lack of affordable health care, and a missing social safety net as the primary reasons for their departure. These refugees are discovering that the financial reality of life in the U.S. is far more difficult than the life they left behind in South Africa. What does it say about the persecution these people were up against in South Africa that they would choose to return because the rent is too expensive? This is what we get when immigration and asylum policies are shaped by white nationalists. The Trump administration invited the white beneficiaries of apartheid to America while hunting down black and brown people in the streets. These people were a symbol of a specific political agenda that chose to prioritize whiteness over everything else.
Guys, did you see that? It's like apparently, allegedly, 1,000 of those Afrikaner refugees that went to America, they're coming back because they don't like America. But if you're experiencing a white Afrikaans, specifically like Afrikaner genocide or white genocide, would it not be unsafe for you to return? So what's happening now is that more than ever, even with all the investigations that were done, it just shows you that this was never true. I mean, I know it. I'm white and I'm Afrikaans, and I've never been targeted or discriminated against based on the fact that I'm white and Afrikaans. But now they're coming back and they're proving the point that there is no Afrikaner genocide. But I also think as like South Africa, I know in general we are a very friendly country and friendly people. I think we should not allow them to come back because they sowed hatred and they try to, I don't know why so many white Afrikaans people are obsessed with making themselves the victim. I think it is because when they make themselves the victim or pretend like they experience hate crimes, then it justifies them hating other people because of their skin color, which it's not okay. Guys, it's not okay. You're racist and you suck as a human being. But yeah, I don't think we should allow them back.
Oh, you can't make this up. But do you all remember when this administration welcomed 59 white South Africans into the country, talking about they were fleeing from persecution in South Africa for being white, and they allowed these Afrikaners to take a privately chartered jet, because that's what refugees get to do, I guess, come to the United States, and they were met by 2 deputy directors of federal agencies, not just 1, but 2. Well, let me refresh your memory because I have an update on what's going on with them now. But let's look back at when they were welcomed off their private charter jet.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America. It is such an honor for us to receive you here today. This is the land of the free, and we know that all of you have faced. I'm Chris Landau. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States. This is my friend Troy Edgar.
Yeah, I'm the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. Again, welcome. So great to have you guys here.
I know you've gone through a long flight. I cannot believe there are babies and children who are actually so well behaved. This is much better than mine are. So bless you for that. And you know, I think it makes me so happy to see you with our flag in your hands, and that flag symbolizes liberty for so many of us. Many of us, our families.
Well, that was in May of last year. Let's take a look at what's going on with them today. It couldn't have happened to some better people.
Welcome back. You may recall last year we reported on the Trump administration's decision to limit the number of refugees entering the United States. That number was set at 7,500, a significant cut from the Biden era. In addition, the administration is prioritizing white South Africans for admission, a group it says faces persecution at home, something the South African government disputes. Well, now an investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are failures in U.S. government systems. Madeline Rowley is an investigative reporter for the Free Press, and she joins us now from Virginia to talk about this. And we should note the Free Press and CBS News share a parent company in Paramount Skydance. Madeline, good morning. Talk to us about the conditions some of these refugees say they are experiencing, because the administration made it seem as if they were being prioritized. They are a special group.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on. Yes, I spoke to 10 South African refugees who told me that, you know, they came to the U.S. hoping for a better life, a better situation, just as other refugees And the government contracts with 7 refugee resettlement agencies that are paid hundreds of millions of dollars per year to provide safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And unfortunately, what I heard from these Afrikaner refugees is that they're spending weeks in motels in unsafe areas. They're being offered housing that is full of mold, apartments that are full of mold in expensive areas. So each refugee is allotted $2,000, and all of that has been going to rent. So they're really left with nothing. And these agencies are supposed to help them apply to jobs, obtain temporary benefits such as SNAP and Medicaid, and basically other people from the community, like neighbors, are having to step in because they just, in some cases, can't even get a hold of their resettlement agencies.
And Madeline, what jumps out to me about what you're saying is we have this almost split screen between what you're describing their life is like now and how they looked in May of 2025 when they were being welcomed here. They were holding American flags. They had smiles on their faces. When you asked refugee groups about these issues with the resettlement process, what are they telling you? How common is this?
Well, from what I could tell, I mean, there is an entire network of people as they come. I mean, people I spoke to came as soon as 2 weeks ago. And what they do is, they have a network through social media groups and WhatsApp, and they're all realizing, oh no, I'm stuck in this hotel. I only have a certain amount of food. They don't have transportation. They don't have the right clothing. I talked to 3 refugees who are in Detroit. It's very cold there. They do not have coats. So they're realizing that they really feel alone. So I think with that original group, now we're sort of seeing, I think so far, over 1,600 Afrikaner refugees have come. And now we're seeing sort of the cracks in the system here when it comes to how these resettlement agencies work. They have regional offices all throughout the United States where the money from the federal government trickles down. Some of them, one refugee resettlement agency, their federal expenditures topped $727 million in fiscal year 2024. So I think we have to ask here, why are these refugees being told there's no budget for food, or there's no other apartments or places to show them that are in safe and sanitary areas?
So Madeline, in our last few moments, what are these resettlement groups telling you? And are other refugee groups expressing the same amount of challenges?
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the questions that my reporting for the Free Press raises. I spoke to the neighbor of one Afrikaner family who was resettled in North Carolina. And the neighbor told me, she's been helping this family. She gave them air mattresses, pillows. She spent $300 of her own money to help this family. And she told me that previously there was a family from Afghanistan, a refugee family from Afghanistan, who was living in this rental home, and they experienced the same challenges. So I think this really raises the question. The majority of Afrikaners, a lot of Afrikaners do speak English. It's not their first language, and not all of them here speak English. But I think this raises the question as to whether or not other refugees that are going through this refugee resettlement system are experiencing the same thing. And this is sort of the first time that we're hearing about it.
And we did just show a statement from the Office of Refugee Resettlement saying every effort is made to provide them with safe and sanitary housing. Madeline, we appreciate your reporting, putting a spotlight on this, and we thank you for joining us this morning.
This couldn't have happened to a group of better people. And the most interesting thing that I didn't know that I learned from that reporting was they have snuck 1,600 more of these South African Afrikaners fleeing from a lie of persecution in South Africa. Yeah, sounds about right. But I don't hear any outrage from these maggots and racists and bigots talking about they're getting $2,000 a month. They're being put on welfare so they can have medical and yada, yada, yada. I don't hear any of that from those anti-immigrant groups that are always talking about immigrants just being allowed to breathe in the United States. Like I said, couldn't have happened to a better group. Yep, I guess their usefulness has run its course.
You know, sometimes some of these things are very funny to listen to or to even hear, because tell me what is happening in Sudan. You know, compare what is happening in Sudan to whatever Donald Trump was talking about happening in South Africa. I have never heard anything, any G-side going on in South Africa until Donald Trump said it. And it's funny, people who are saying or who agreed, that's the white South Africans who agreed with Donald Trump that yes, we are suffering in South Africa, so we are coming to America, and they went to America. If truly something of that sort was happening in South Africa, why then are they moving back to South Africa this year? Because if they don't want you at a particular place, why return? Make it make sense. Why return to the same place if they don't like you, if truly they don't like you? Let's compare that to what is happening in Sudan. Why is Donald Trump not asking the people in Sudan to also come to America? Why? Even what is happening in Sudan, they are not even talking about it at all. This should tell you, black people, this should tell you we should love ourselves and we should cater for ourselves and we should basically love ourselves and take care of each other, because listen, no matter what you do, no matter what we do, they will never like us. No matter what we do, they will never ever like us. It's about time we think about ourselves. We love ourselves more than any other person. Trust me, because they don't care. And this is a clear example. I don't want to talk much. Thank you so much for watching.